Joint Homeless Subcommittee meeting here, June 9th, 2001. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead and lead it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, see you. Do roll call.
Right. Let's see. We've got subcommittee member Bowden.
Here.
Subcommittee member Leffler.
Aye.
Vice Chair Walsh, I do not see. And Chair, Vice Chair Ewing, I do not see. Chair Walsh.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, we'll set up our next meeting for next month.
Hey, Chairman Walsh, can I make the suggestion that we get Ms. Hunter's presentation in before we do any other business?
You're right, yeah, so we can get her underway, yeah. So we'll skip right to that.
Okay, if I can just say a couple words first. I'd like to introduce our community outreach worker. This is Carly Hunter. She has been with us since last Tuesday, and she has been doing a phenomenal job so far. Her work will involve making outreach with the homeless and the offerings and of resources and services and doing the coordination with the service providers around town. She'll also be working with code compliance staff, the park rangers, and the deputies from the Orange County Sheriff's Department. We are 2 weeks into this, so we're still getting the full ball rolling. In the meantime, we still have contracted services through Mercy House, and Carly is coordinating with them to make sure that we have a seamless transition as their work tapers off and hers ramps up. So with that, I will introduce Carly and let her give a little bit of background about herself.
Thank you, Adam. So my name is Carly Hunter, and I have had the pleasure of working with and next to the homeless for over 9.5 years. I worked with Friendship Shelter in Laguna Beach, started with their emergency ASL shelter, and then moved on to their self-sufficiency program, and then moved up through different jobs, and was I think when I left there, I was their housing navigator and advocate. So I've done advocacy, I've done housing, I've done supervision of emergency sites. I've been a liaison, volunteer coordinating. So I've done kind of the gamut of different jobs in the homeless sector, and I've worked with addicts, recovering addicts, and so I've kind of done a lot of what I think is needed in this community. So I'm already out there and just excited to help the community and get some people housed and give some people some services, which is definitely needed. So yeah.
Yeah, and if I could add, it's an important detail about Carly is that she is native from the area. She grew up locally, so she's familiar with the topography and the local sites. And she, as you said, worked in Orange County, so she's familiar with the organizations that we will be partnering with most frequently.
I'd like to say the word is so far, I've heard that she spent quite a bit of time at North Beach, and I venture to say she's probably spent more time in North Beach than CityNet and FAM have in the last couple of years. So it's good to have you on board. I think you've got the right attitude, and good luck, and anything any of us can help you, we'd be more than happy.
Right on. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
nice to
same.
meet you all,
I
definitely.
feel the same. I just was curious, is the city enrolled in the continuum of care?
I'm in the process of doing that.
Okay.
I'm working with Janet and I are going to meet on Thursday. It's not as easy to just kind of get into that as I'm hoping, but we're gonna make that happen, and we're gonna be enrolled in that. That is my top priority, to be totally honest.
Is that the same as the HMIS through HUD?
They're all connected in a way, and I want to be a part of all of that so that I can get the clients the services as fast as possible, and the best way is to be connected in that stuff.
Great.
So yeah.
That was actually my question, Carly, is, we kind of, in the Human Affairs Committee meeting yesterday, learned about the different databases that exist for families or individuals or veterans and what have you. So my question is, does that give us access to all of those, or how does that all work?
The HMIS?
Yes. Yeah. So if you're,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you're applying for HMIS access to that database, does that give you access to all of the different coordinated entry systems, or?
It gives me basically, yeah. And then I will be going, getting involved in the central, entry system, the coordinated entry system, the continuum of care. It's an all encompassed program that, yeah, it gets all the services connected and stuff. So there'll be like, I think at least 3 meetings a week or a month that'll help match clients and with services. So it can happen quickly, which is the goal.
We were told by city staff that there was no plan for you to actually create your own database or whatever, but and maybe you have this in your plan already, but I would strongly recommend that you keep your own records also. You can't rely on these national or even local databases sometimes, slip through the cracks. So hopefully you'll be also keeping track of our local homeless yourself and with your own notes and strategies.
Yes, that is also a plan.
Very good.
Yeah.
Maybe just one other question for you, Carly. Have you found it pretty easy so far, working with the other parties, Mercy House and FAM and OCSD, that homeless liaison officers?
Yes, I mean, I've worked mostly with FAM, and I spoke with, I know that Mercy House I haven't connected with as quickly as I'd like to, but FAM has been amazing, and they've already made matches, and I have a couple people I'm going to go out to right after this and get some intakes done, and hopefully get some because there's rapid rehousing money out there, and I want to get them signed up for so that we can get them matched to housing.
Awesome.
Subcommittee member Bowden, you brought up a good question about the OCSD HLOs. There are currently no HLOs right now. The deputies that are going to be part of the new Behavioral Health Bureau have been identified and are being trained right now, but we don't have any deputies that are acting as HLOs in the city right now. So Carly's connection with existing city staff that have experience with dealing with people experiencing homelessness is geared mostly with the code compliance staff and park rangers that have been addressing this issue for the past years. Once the HLO, or excuse me, once the deputies that are part of the Behavioral Health Bureau are fully trained and operational, then Carly will be working with them on an as-needed basis as well, just to make sure all parties involved in contacts with the homeless are all on the same page and that all of our work is aligned. So if there are no other questions for Carly, I know she's got some stuff to do out in the field, but I do want to thank her for stopping by today.
Thank you. Nice to meet
Thanks,
you.
Carly.
All
Thanks,
right.
Carly.
Take care.
You too.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll jump back to the determining the next date meeting. And in July, I'm going to be out of town until the 15th for July. So the week after looks pretty good for a lot of dates. Adam, what do you think?
Okay, so we're looking at after July 15th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so Tuesday, July 20th, or actually, we could probably do Monday, July 19th, any time of the day. Tuesday, July 20th, there's a council meeting at, which there's closed session starts at 5 p.m. We could do a meeting on that day, I would say, starting no later than 1 p.m. Same thing would apply to Wednesday, the 21st. And those would be the 3 days from that week that would work. If you'd like me to look at the following week, I can do that as well.
Rick, Tyler, how do those days work for you? They all work for me. So.
Yes. Same with me. If they, either one. I mean, when we start at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, we'll be done way before the council meeting anyway. And Monday's fine any time of day for me.
Yeah.
So it's up to Tyler.
It all works for me as well. So if there's any preference on the city side, looks like we can all make them.
Okay.
The Monday, any of those days would work for city staff.
Okay, let's do Monday, 1 o'clock. How about that?
And that's the 19th, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well,
Okay, and then we can formalize that decision when we adjourn at the end of the meeting. Okay.
Alrighty. And I believe this is where we're going to have Donna Vadrine address us, give us a special presentation. Donna, can we bring her up? There she is.
Thank you for inviting me today to talk to your committee and giving me the opportunity to talk about the San Clemente Homeless Collaborative. I really appreciate this opportunity. It was nice meeting Carly, our new outreach worker in the field. So to introduce you to the San Clemente Collaborative, who are we? I apologize for not having slides. And I apologize, and you'll have to look at me instead of slides, but I have my notes in front of me. And after I finish, I'll be open to any questions or any discussions that you want to have. So the San Clemente Homeless Collaborative, who are we? We're nurses, social workers, lawyers, parents, business owners, community leaders. Participation in the past have included the homeless liaison officers, the senior center, city council members, candidates for city council in 2020, to include Bill Hart and Aaron Washington. We are the San Clemente Collaborative. We are a community that is engaged and focused on solutions to homelessness in our city. We learn about successful programs and examine ways to bring those programs and those successes to San Clemente. What we learned is that there are successes and there are solutions to homelessness that we can study and use in our city. As a collaborative, we meet, we discuss, and we study to learn from others, including successful programs in Orange County. Some of the programs that we've studied are ADUs, tiny homes, safe parking programs, shelters, navigation centers, permanent supportive housing. We advocate for the homeless living in our streets and on our public spaces. Let's see. We are looking at a shower and laundry trailer for San Clemente. And the thought behind that is that once a week, go to different locations in San Clemente so that the unhoused can have access to showers, laundry, and fellowship. The Vine is coming to San Clemente in July to share their policies, their budget, and mentor us on how we can be successful. We will apply for funding, grant money, and request money from our county and city that is to be used for homeless programs. We learned about this through a collaborative meeting in May of 2021, just last month. Let's see. Solutions include shelter and shelter options. And there are different ways to provide this in our city. This can be blocks of hotel rooms in different locations throughout the city with case management, supportive services from day one so that we can transition the homeless on the streets to be successful in permanent supportive housing and affordable housing. Possible sites for shelter options, permanent supportive housing and affordable housing in San Clemente. Let's see. Could include, there's 10 acres of land owned by the ESC. The coalition, the San Clemente Homeless Coalition, has arranged a tour this week at that site. The owners have plans to build on that property a structure to support homelessness and include permanent supportive housing. Old City Hall could be a potential site. The city can donate the land for permanent supportive housing and affordable housing. We could start with the safe parking program and utilize office space for case management and supportive services for our San Clemente homeless today, living and dying on our streets and public spaces. There's some unincorporated land off of La Pata. We could work with the county to build a regional facility to serve San Clemente and our neighboring cities. Another idea is that we could partner with the summer project that's coming in the business park. Maybe we could, partner with that program and see if they might donate some land, build a shelter, contribute some money towards our San Clemente homeless program. Homelessness, the unhoused, is a very complex problem. It is not easy to fix. There are funds available. We need the political will. We want to change the hearts and minds of city council and city leadership. We want to engage the San Clemente community in a successful strategy to assist those in need with resources. We want to support the work of those advocating for the homeless, the boots on the ground, behavioral health through the county, I Hope, Friendship Shelter, Mercy House, and FAM. This is a public health crisis, and urgent and immediate action is called for. I believe that we can do better as a city. Let's be a leader in Orange County. Let's show who we are and who we can become. A caring community that is inclusive, working together, united, not divided. Our next collaborative meeting is on Monday, the 14th at 4 p.m. in Our Lady of Fatima. Padre Bill is hosting us. So I've extended an invitation to your committee. I think Adam has said that he's planning on being there. I'll make sure that we invite Carly, and each of you are welcome to come and attend. Come and bring your hard questions. Be ready for discussion. There's going to be a presentation by the Illumination Foundation from Fullerton, and they've been very successful working with the city of Fullerton in their navigational and recuperative facility there. It's in an industrial park. It's a 2-story warehouse building that they converted. There's a nursery school right across the street, and the city of Fullerton and the Illumination Foundation have had a very positive, very good working relationship. The CEO and the founder and their team has offered to come to San Clemente and partner with us and show us how we can be successful. FAM went out and toured with us. So we're looking at working together collaboratively and just finding our path forward and being successful. So that's all I have to say, and I'm open to any discussion or any questions that y'all have.
Well, thank you, Donna. That was very good, very informative. It sounds like you guys are doing a lot. It sounds like you're really trying to work forward with this program. And I have a couple things, but I was going to ask you, what's your feeling for what the number of homeless that we have here in San Clemente?
I think we have approximately 100 homeless in San Clemente. Could be 80, could be 110, but I would say 100. We do have some families and individuals that are living in their cars, and a safe parking program would be very beneficial.
And what is will your group reach out to the homeless encampments that are south of our city, mostly in state property?
As a collaborative, we are totally focused on the homeless in San Clemente. So are you talking about a state park in San Clemente? We just want to stay focused on finding solutions to our city's homeless.
Well, there's I'll be bold and say it's probably the largest homeless encampment south of Irvine, and it's in the San Mateo and runs along the freeway. And then there's in San Mateo, the Trestles wetlands, all in through there. There's a number of homeless that are in there. They technically are in San Diego County, but they don't go 25 miles south to get resources and get things they need. They head 200 yards north to San Clemente. So they're virtually are homeless.
Okay. I personally have not spent a lot of time with that group, but I will look at working with, I hope, with different groups and learning more about that and seeing how as a collaborative we can look at solutions for that group specifically too.
Yeah, if you ever want to take a tour, give me a call, email me and I'll meet you and I'll walk you through.
Okay, I will, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you, Donna, for all the extensive research you've done on so many of these issues. And just for your information, investigating shelter options was a major part of our work plan. And we were looking forward to doing some of the work and working with you in finding those, but the city removed that from our work plan. They apparently didn't think that was important for us to do. So I don't know what to say, except I'm embarrassed.
I understand, and I have followed your journey also. I've watched your meetings and have advocated for your work in San Clemente.
Well, thanks again, Donna.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Yeah, just one more question, Donna, and thanks for all the work that you're doing. And I'll plan to be there on Monday at Our Lady of Fatima. But my question was about the funding that you talked about that you'd become aware of, I think you said last month. It sounded like, I might be wrong, but it sounded like you said you're planning on applying for funding. Did I mishear you? Or if so, which entity would actually be applying for funding and receiving funding?
Well, we're going to be working with FAM and also some churches that are nonprofits, and some churches have applied for grant money. For example, Christ Lutheran Church, they got some grant money for a program that they call Laundry Love.
Mhm.
And so we'll be looking at maybe I will learn how to apply for grant money, more expertise than I currently have. But we'll look at the people that already know how to do that and the organizations that already have some connections to that, and see what funding is available and go for that.
Okay, so it sounds like members of your collaborative that maybe represent different organizations are working together to identify funding so that their respective organizations could then apply for that funding.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the work that you're doing on that, because as we, learned in the Human Affairs Committee meeting yesterday, the social service grants doesn't look like they're recommended to be funded. So certain organizations that would support homeless outreach services and so on wouldn't be funded through that budget. So I
And
appreciate
we'll also be working with city council and city staff and see if we can get some of that money that's allocated from the American Recovery Plan and monies that are dedicated for homeless programs in San Clemente. We'll be requesting some of those funds and come up with budgets and submit those proposals too. You can wish us luck on that one.
Hey, Don, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you, as the chair of your coalition, feel that the city council voted to eliminate the San Clemente, our joint homeless subcommittee, which in effect is the only committee directly dedicated to homeless solutions here in the city? How's your coalition feel about that?
We kind of think that was a mistake. We listened to what city council said, and they did say that they were doing it to use staff time more efficiently. And I did hear them say that 2 people on the safety committee will be more experts on homelessness, and 2 people on the human affairs committee will have more expertise on homelessness, and that they each will be 7-member committees. So I can see a path forward with that. So I'm hoping that some time both with public safety and with human affairs will be dedicated to homeless issues in San Clemente. But I also feel that the city council has not given your group the support and the support that you've needed to go forth and accomplish the goals that you had set. And I know a year ago, I think it's been a year ago, everyone was very enthusiastic about the homeless task force and the work that you could accomplish in San Clemente. But I don't really see that you've been given the authority or the support that you need to go forth with a lot of those goals. So hopefully with the Public Safety Committee and with the Human Affairs Committee and with more support from City Council, hopefully we'll be able to accomplish more together in our city to solve the homeless issues.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
And Tyler, I know that you are going to be, I think it's president of the Rotary Club.
Yeah, I'm taking over as president. So I, on that note, won't be able to reapply for human affairs. Just won't have time for it. So I'd encourage you, Donna, or anyone who's part of your collaborative to apply for human affairs if they're interested. Applications should be coming out soon.
Well, actually, I'm thinking the Rotary Club can work with the collaborative, and maybe we can help you with some of your programs if you do anything with homelessness, and you can support the collaborative in your role as Rotary Club president.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned it, I can take the opportunity to mention that, the Rotary Club is partnering with Community Outreach Alliance, their Thrive Alive program, to go and distribute food at Mendocino Apartments up at the end of Pico and Talega. That's also in partnership with FAM through their food distribution network. So we would welcome anyone to come and participate. They actually do that every single Friday. So anyone that's watching that's interested in doing some good work in the community, that happens every Friday from 2 to 6. And then, yeah, to your point, I mean, the Rotary Club is definitely looking to step up in terms of where we're allocating our fundraising dollars in organizations around the community, and where there's a lack or a loss of like the social service grant funding from the city. We're trying to fill that in wherever we can with what little impact we can make in our fundraising. But I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Donna. We're going to move on to the next order of business here.
Thank you for
Oral-
having me.
Oral and written communications.
You're muted, Adam. You're muted.
Thank you. The chair.
You're muted again.
You're still muted.
My apologies. The next item of business is approval of the minutes.
Oh, you're right. Yep. I skipped right over that. Yes, approval of the minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th, 2021.
Yeah, I move that we approve the minutes of the homeless subcommittee meeting from May 11th.
Second.
I
Aye.
3-0 approval. Now to oral and written communications.
Okay, thank you. We do have three communications that have been submitted by the public, and I will read those now. The first written communication comes from Tony Rubolino. He writes, "My name is Tony Rubolino, and I am a resident of San Clemente. I am appreciative of the Public Safety Committee's efforts thus far to help bring all of the stakeholders to the table in the interest of safety of San Clemente residents. I feel the dialogue and generation of ideas are advantageous in the effort to reach a solution to address the impacts of the transient population on our town. Please do continue the meetings and work together to establish solutions, such as the rails installed on benches throughout the city. I recall other ideas being proposed in the past as well, including additional lighting of darker areas, shopping cart locks, and regular drone patrol of canyons. Lastly, with the new homeless outreach city employee, having oversight by the Public Safety Committee will be critical to provide feedback and direction. Thank you." The next comes from Michelle Brooks. She writes, "Members of the esteemed homeless committee and city leaders, first off, thank you for all your time and efforts. A grateful community supports you. The reason for my letter is that I am super upset to learn recently that the homeless committee will no longer contain members from the Public Safety Committee. That committee was formed last year in part with the intent of focusing on homelessness in our town as part of its umbrella, because that is a major part of our public safety for housed and unhoused residents both. I understand the homeless committee will now only be comprised of members from Human Affairs, which is another great committee, but don't you think representatives from both would bring a broader perspective and more solutions? There is still so much work to be done. In fact, maybe now more work than ever with regards to homelessness. Now is not the time to cut corners. Rather, we need to go all in. You have volunteers willing to serve, let them. Homelessness has only gotten worse in the state this past year. It is absolutely a public safety concern, equal to, if not more so, than a human affairs issue. This makes no sense to me why you would remove individuals from a committee literally called public safety from one of the hugest public safety issues facing us. Please explain your rationale. Thank you for your time and considering my thoughts. Warmly, Michelle Brooks." The last letter that we have received. In keeping with my concern over the public health and safety of our San Clemente residents, I am writing to offer my support in keeping the scheduled public safety meetings on the calendar during the transition. The Joint Homeless Subcommittee has surfaced some valuable and helpful suggestions during their tenure and should continue their work for as long as possible. Please do not eliminate the remaining meetings of the Joint Homeless Subcommittee. It is my hope that at least some of the members of the Joint Homeless Subcommittee will be included in the new Soul Committee. People like Rick Leffler are invaluable contributors. I would also like to recommend the addition of at least one concerned citizen with deep experience in the area, Michelle Brooks. Thank you in advance for your support. That's from Lisa Adoni. And that is all we have received.
Okay, real good. Okay, reviews and recommendations. Any reviews? Well, do we have any there?
There's nothing agendized.
All right, new business. Well, I think the hiring of the homeless outreach coordinator is one part of a new business. That was good. And she started last Tuesday, is that right?
Yes, last Tuesday.
Okay. I'm a little disappointed that the city didn't get the HMIS. Am I saying it right? The right letters? I mix them up every now and then. Prior, because I had warned Kathy Ward, Gene James, and the city manager, Eric Sund, at least, what was that, Rick? 2 months ago?
2 months ago. Yeah.
I warned them at the time that we needed to move forward with that. City needed to press forward to make sure that that was in place by the time she arrived. Eric Sund assured us in that meeting, Rick was there, that it would be in place by the time she arrived. So I am pretty disappointed that that didn't happen. But then again, I'm not surprised.
Well,
So,
I'm aware that that it was applied for before the position was filled. The last I've heard is that the county, the continuum of care overseeing this, changed their policy about allowing new agencies to sign up for the program, and that they're revising their policy. And once that is done, then they will continue the processing of our applications. In the meantime, we do have partners that we work with that do have access to HMIS, and we will ensure that the information that our community outreach worker collects is put into that system with the help of those partners. But we are definitely anticipating the need to have that system up and running as soon as possible. Just for the city of San Clemente to be identified as an agency.
I appreciate exactly what you said, and I believe you. I think to extend the point that Gary was making, it didn't seem at that meeting that it was a pressing point. It also, as Gary said, I assumed that when city manager said it would be in place by the time the new outreach person was hired, I assumed that what he meant was the city would be recognized as a service provider, which we are not recognized. And I think relying on partners or other venues of getting our information besides just being a provider in our city is a shoddy way of doing things. I'm sorry. I hope it all works out, but I'm disappointed at the process.
I understand your comments, and I'm not trying to placate anything here. I'm telling you from my perspective as the community outreach workers direct supervisor, what we're going to do in the situation that we're in. I haven't been privy to every single step of this process, and I certainly was not part of the meeting that you are discussing. So, to the extent.
Just let me say real quick, I'm probably in some of my comments going to be referring to staff in quotes, and in no way am I referring to you in particular, because I don't know what staff has participated in what I'm going to address. So just take that for what it is. You know, whatever staff people were involved in what I'm addressing, then that's on them, not particularly on all staff people. So.
I appreciate the primer.
So Adam, so just that I have it correct on the HMIS thing is that we're not going to have access to our own data. We have to ask somebody to get the data for us and then turn it back and share it to us. So we have no formal, we don't have data, right? I mean, essentially, we don't have access to data. We have to ask somebody for the data. Is that correct?
Until we have access to HMIS, until we're an agency and we have that program ourselves, yes, we're going to rely on partners that we work with. Our goal is to get into that system as soon as possible. However, we're not in the driver's seat of that decision. That's going to be up to the agency to create the policy for allowing new agencies in. And I don't know what that time frame looks like. We've asked them for an idea, and we have not received that yet. I hope to have a much more in-depth update for the subcommittee at the next meeting. If not, hope that this information is provided to the city sooner than that.
Is CityNet one of our partners?
No, CityNet we don't have any contracts with them. They may still be working under county grants, but we are working with Mercy House. We're working with FAM. There are also some other South Orange County groups that Carly does have access to and can work with them as well. A lot of this depends on who, a lot of this depends on who's requiring what services. So let's say if it's a homeless veteran person, we're going to try to go after veteran benefits first. And so we'll go through the organizations that have access to HMIS with that individual. And it's unfortunately going to be somewhat case by case until we do have access to HMIS ourselves.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for the report. And my question was about Mercy House. You may have said it earlier, but it sounds like Carly's experience so far has been that FAM has been super helpful, but maybe she's had trouble reaching out or getting in contact with Mercy House. So I was wondering how long we have left in our contract with Mercy House, if it's planned to be extended, or what's the end date on that?
We're currently analyzing the potential date of when we would end Mercy House's contract. That's definitely weeks away. The timing of the onboarding of the community outreach worker position coincided with a week when our two typical Mercy House staffers were on vacation. So there's been a little lapse in communication with their regular staff that work this area, but we will improve our amount of communication with them as their normal staff returns.
Okay, and one other question, kind of two-part, I guess, but just in terms of cadence that Carly has with working with FAM, is there like a daily, weekly, whatever meeting that she has with them, or is it kind of just on an individual basis? She'll just reach out to them on an as needed basis.
Honestly, it's been daily, but keep in mind there's only been like 5 days, of work so far. So in the future, I would see it as less than on a day-to-day basis. But for right now, there are a couple other things going on. FAM, there are resources that need to be provided by the end of the fiscal year, and so there are some. And these are actual resources. So these are not the things that the community outreach worker is going to be, provided to give to the homeless. These are the things that we're going to coordinate with the people that provide resources. But there's certain resources that need to be utilized by the end of the fiscal year, or they go away, and then we rely on the next fiscal year budget. So right now there's a pretty big push to utilize everything that's left, in this fiscal year budget, and whether that's because of grants, whether that's just because of a governmental budget. There's various things with that. So that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of contact right now. Carly is in touch with everybody that she could be in touch with on a daily basis right now. As this moves forward, we'll see what turns into weekly meetings or otherwise.
Adam, can we meet with Carly? Can we have a meeting with her?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. As I've mentioned in the past, our goal is to maximize the amount of time that she's out in the field. If there are questions that can be fielded by her direct supervisors, either myself or Cecilia Gallardo Daly, we would rather have the opportunity to answer those questions rather than taking up time, from Carly's time in the field.
Well, would it be possible maybe I could ride along with her and I could just talk with her while we rode along, and I could, and Rick, myself, and, we could ride along and point out things.
Yeah, you know what? A ride along is not something that our staff typically does. Ride alongs tend to happen in agencies where they have a lot more staff to devote. But let me look into that more, and I'll get back to you. I'm just being really cognizant of Carly's time. Everybody would like to sit down and talk to her, and if everybody does it, then she'll have zero time to actually be in the field doing anything. So that's my only concern.
I was planning on trying to just meet her up at North Beach one day when she was up there and just kind of hang a little bit and watch. And I mean, I could do that as a private citizen, right? I'm not precluded from going to North Beach, am I?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And we don't want to preclude people from being involved. Being on the subcommittee is I think it's a nicely justifiable mechanism for communicating in this arena. I'm just being in a public meeting. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware. We're being very cognizant of how much time is being spent just talking about homelessness and how much time is spent being devoted to actually doing something productive about it. So.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for taking all our questions. You mentioned a point about resources that need to be spent by the end of the fiscal year. Could you maybe elaborate on that and what those, I imagine that there's dollars, are earmarked for, just kind of in general?
So that information has come to me through some of the resources, the resource providers, like the FAMs of the world, where they've contacted us to, and whether it's code compliance or park ranger staff or Carly, they've wanted to connect with us to do a tour of the city to make sure that there are like no new faces that we could not provide some of these resources for. I don't know exactly, I don't have enough information to say what type of funding is available that would potentially run out by the end of this fiscal year. I'm assuming their fiscal year is the same as the city's, ending on June 30th, and a new one beginning on July 1st.
I see. So just to clarify, it sounds like the resources are held through FAM or whichever similar organization, not within the city, but through that entity. Got it.
Yes, and yeah, if this was something with FAM, I would assume that they're operating under a grant. That grant is provided by a government. That government has a fiscal year, and it's whatever this year's grant per se would they would need to spend all of that money by June 30th. I don't see any resources that FAM would actually have themselves that they wouldn't maintain after July 30th.
Got it. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't through the city, that it was through an outside source. So thank you.
Hey, Adam, I just wanted to get back to Carly. asking questions. So who's showing her the lay of the land then? Yeah, I mean, you just didn't give her a car and tell her go find it, did you?
No, we've done, she's been doing, I don't want to say tours of the city, but she's been shadowing and getting tours from code compliance staff. Paul Pye, he has been working on this issue for years. He was the, when the city had our own campsite, he was the staff member that was basically assigned to that campsite. He has a wealth of information about these individuals in the time when between CityNet and Mercy House. Paul, along with our lead park ranger, Joe Fuentes, they were doing a lot of this outreach work. Again, in the interim, the HLOs have gone away. So it's really been on the code compliance division to maintain all of these maintain all these contacts, and we've been working with FAM for months to try to get people housed. So when Carly started on, we're trying to transition our work off of that and back mostly into enforcement, and then allowing Carly to do that outreach work and do all the coordination with the service providers. So it's been mostly them that she's been going out with. Now, it doesn't take that long to get where all the hotspots are. So she goes out on her own now and will go and follow up with people. There are multiple individuals that she's essentially starting case management with. And so that work, unless there are concerns that are significant enough where she would like to accompaniment, she can at this point just go out on her own and connect with these people. One of the issues that we have is that as staff, specifically enforcement staff, as we enforce on certain areas and we identify places where people can and cannot be based on impacts to the public right of way and things of that nature, the hotspots can tend to move. They did when a lot of these individuals were in the open space canyons, and then the drone footage started being shown, and it was a major effort to work with all the property owners and get everybody out of the canyons. Well, then they moved to other places, and so we're kind of following the problem as far as enforcement goes, and that just creates a situation where people are constantly looking for new places to set up camp, so to speak. So as that occurs, nobody in the city has any information about where the next place is. When those complaints do come in, or if we happen to observe it ourselves, Carly would be the first one to go out there and initiate conversations about outreach.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just have one final question. There was a question earlier about encampments south of town in San Diego County property. I'm just wondering if there's any contact from Carly or yourself with the state parks to do any kind of outreach in that area.
Not yet. We're still there. That's an interesting issue. It's outside of our jurisdiction, and so it's going to be difficult to justify using the city's resources to go outside of this jurisdiction to do outreach. However, what we've discussed is that this population that resides just south of the border between San Diego County and the city of San Clemente, they tend to come into the city. And while they have, we'll call it residence, even though it's temporary residence in a different city, when they are in this city, they still may be people in need of services. So if they're here, we're going to contact them and hopefully try to hook them up with resources. As far as where those encampments are in San Diego County right now, that's going to require San Diego County outreach to make the contact with those people. And one of the issues there is that they are so far away from San Diego County Health that it's probably gonna take a little bit of time to get people up there. Other avenues that we've begun to explore in that area are alerting since they're technically on Caltrans right of way, is alerting those organizations that are responsible for maintaining that property that there are people living on them. So that would be up to them, either Caltrans or the CHP, what they want to do with that issue there. But yeah, as far as providing services to those people, we would at this point in time, we're waiting for them to be in the city before we provide them services.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, another new piece of business is the city council voted last week to eliminate our committee. What do you know about that? What brought that on?
That I was not contacted about this item. This was, from best I can tell, and this is just from watching all of the city council meetings, there was some discussion at a meeting. I want to say it was in March, or maybe early April, that started with the discussion about the planning commission. And there was an item that the city clerk brought up, which was the recruitment for new commissioners and committee members, because all the terms were set to expire at the end of the fiscal year. And so the council at that meeting put the brakes on that recruitment. And they said a few things. They said, first, we would like to investigate the possibility of altering the composition of the planning commission, meaning number of members. And they also, and that was their priority. So they said, extend all of the committee members' terms with the exception, the commissions and committee members' terms, with the exception of the planning commission. We'll deal with that one individually and first. But at that meeting, they discussed the possibility of changing some other committees, and they specifically mentioned the Coastal Advisory Committee. I believe they mentioned the Golf Course Committee. I think at that meeting, they were kind of hinting at the possibility of folding both of those committees into the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Committee. And then they also mentioned the Joint Homeless Subcommittee. I didn't hear anything about this item until it was agendized, and that was a report that came out of the city manager's office. But that's the best that I can tell, that is where this idea came from. It was council itself. Then council subsequently voted to disband the Joint Homeless Subcommittee. Additionally, the Human Affairs Committee would be taking on the work that the Joint Homeless Subcommittee has been doing, with appointments of two members who have an expertise in the area of homelessness. There was no, Ms. Vadrine had mentioned that a similar thing would occur with the Public Safety Committee. I haven't heard that. I believe this Public Safety Committee is still going to be 5 members, and there's no requirement that a certain number of the Public Safety Committee members have a experience with homelessness. The expertise that they're required to have is public safety, specifically public safety related.
And I noted on that agenda for the city on that, it was a staff recommendation to eliminate the homeless committee. That's what it said, right, on the agenda. Staff
Yes,
recommendation. So who is that in the staff that makes that recommendation?
the staff that in an agenda report, whoever it's written by, that's typically the staff. So if this is a report out of the utilities department, then the staff that they're referencing is the utilities department staff. This is a city manager's report, so it would be the city manager's staff.
So it could be a secretary that made that recommendation?
No, it's more just the department or division as a whole.
There is no assistant city manager, so we know it can't be that.
No, it could.
Is there an assistant city manager?
At the time that this item went, no, there wasn't an assistant city manager.
So we can eliminate that one. Okay, so who else could it be in the staff there?
Well, the staff report was written by the city manager. I mean, it was his report, so the staff would typically relate to that.
So it's the city manager then?
You'd have to ask him who the staff he's referring to is. That's on every single agenda report that's recommending a certain action. It's just staff recommends this.
Okay.
Can I expand on this a little bit? I don't know if I was at that council meeting, and then I read the package on the agenda. It was really interesting about this because they started speaking, well, we can end the joint homeless subcommittee because it was never mentioned when we made it a standing committee. That was their justification. It's written very clearly in the agenda. The ordinance number 1709 is currently in effect. Ordinance 1709 changed us from a special meeting to a standing meeting. And when they changed that, apparently they put in no wording in there. And this is on the Public Safety Committee. When they changed it from a special meeting to a standing meeting, they put no mention in there in our description that public safety was that contribute 2 members to the homeless subcommittee. So since that wording wasn't in there, they could just eliminate the committee without any minutes or discussion. What I wonder about that was that an error of omission or commission? It seems if it was an error of omission to where when we became a standing meeting or a standing committee, that wording should have been in there, because when you go to the homeless subcommittee site on the city site, it says it's made up of 2 members of the Public Safety Committee, 2 members of the Human Affairs Committee. So it seems pretty clear that was the intent when they put this in. This wasn't something we made up. This was something the city council deemed. And yet when the Public Safety Committee was turned to a standing committee, somehow that definition was omitted. So it's either error of commission, where there was an agenda to get rid of this committee, or it was an error of omission to where somebody did some shoddy work when all this was done. And again, staff can take credit for that either way. I think I know who staff is on this. I think Gary alluded to it, and I think it's very, very clear that there has been not only a lack of interest, but almost an air of disdain by our city manager regarding this committee and our Public Safety Committee for that matter, by the way that they've taken the work plans and neutered them and made them completely ineffective. It's disturbing. You have gotten comments from the public. If this was an open meeting, you'll be having more comments from the public. And I'm just really concerned. I'm disappointed in the city council also that they were snowed by staff and pass this so easily so we could save $4,000 a year on beverages and supplies, of which I have had none of either. This is really, really concerning. If homelessness is really an issue in the city and a concern, why is it being looked at and dismissed when you have citizens trying to get involved and trying to do something? It's just, I don't know what to say. I'm at a total loss of words. And city staff should be embarrassed. City council should be embarrassed that they let this happen. And if it was up to the citizens and it was put up to a vote, it would be resoundingly rejected that this committee shouldn't be made up of not only human affairs members, but also public safety experts. And that's all I've got to say. And I don't expect you to have an answer for that, Adam, because there is no answer for this.
Well, I appreciate your comments. I don't have an answer for most of your comments. I will say this though, the ordinance that creates committees and commissions is not going to reference participation in an ad hoc committee. Otherwise, every time an ad hoc committee is created, we would need to do it in ordinance to amend the committees or commissions that participate in it. So that's not uncommon. The Human Affairs Committee, the ordinance that created that, it doesn't include anything about participation in this Joint Homeless Subcommittee either. The rest of your comments, I will, I'm sure I will be discussing this with others, and I do appreciate your comments.
Adam, I'm gonna go easy on you. I appreciate you kind of taking the heat from us and having been on the Human Affairs Committee for 3 years now, it's the back and forth between, as a committee member and between staff and with the council, it does definitely get frustrating. So I can understand and echo the concerns and grievances of my fellow committee members. I don't want to complain. I really just am curious for the Human Affairs Committee in the coming year with 2 homeless experts. Do you happen to know what the desire of the council is for the Human Affairs Committee to address as it pertains to homelessness in particular?
They haven't spoken to that. What they have said that they would look into is, so far, is as far as a committee or a subcommittee is concerned, is what's in the work plan right now. I would assume that they're going to want similar things from the Human Affairs Committee. So the work plan, whatever's left to be done, I would assume is going to be rolled into the next Human Affairs Committee work plan. But this is an evolving thing. So I would assume it's also new things are going to pop up that will need to be discussed as well.
Adam, you're saying nobody, I'm sorry, Tyler, did you have a follow-up question for that?
Not a question, more of a comment, and it's specifically directed at the council if they happen to be watching this or whatnot. It's I would just encourage their direct participation in that process, because the back and forth is quite disheartening as a committee member. I can admit, because it doesn't feel like the work that we're doing is really having any effect. It feels like we're spinning our wheels, and to talk about staff time, we're committee member time, and we're here to do work. And if the council isn't kind of creating a pathway for us to actually use our time to do work that's productive, then we're all just wasting our time, and that's not good for anybody. So I really encourage the council to really be more involved with the future committees, so that they can be effective in doing something, anything.
Does Bill have a comment? I see Bill might have joined us and his hand is up.
Yeah, I joined about 1:15. I was just very sorry to be on so late, but I guess I've got a lot of comments about this. I'm just terribly embarrassed by by the whole thing and the way this committee was essentially terminated by the council. And I'm sure I'm going to be writing a letter to that effect too. But I'm finding this just to be terribly mishandled, and you know, we've been held back. We've been trying to really get going here for the last year or so, and been trying to put together plans, and then the plans were changed, and every time we came up with an idea, well, we were struck with, well, we're the kind of committee now that's covered by the Brown Act, so we have to be in pairs of two everywhere we go and try to do anything. So while we were trying to put together visits to other organizations, somebody like Donna, who I've known now for a while, in fact, I've been to a few of her meetings. In fact, Mr. Bowden and I were with her a couple of times when she first got started, and we've been trying to be helpful to her. Meanwhile, she's been forming this collaborative, which is now a very big deal. They made a presentation yesterday to the Human Affairs Committee and did a great job. And I think it's being operated very nicely, and it's making a very good impression. And I think she's providing some great leadership. So I'm a little jealous of their ability to be able to just go on a field trip with 25 people up in North County, and then come back and report and talk about a collaborative with 25 other organizations, some of whom I know I helped her participate with. But I don't know, I just feel like we have been, we're being cited for something that we had no control over. We couldn't do much about it. We had to be 2 by 2. And so there's a lot of things that were wrong with the way this whole thing was designed from the beginning. And I can assure you that the Human Affairs Committee is not going to have 2 experts that I know of on the homeless thing. And if they were, I would tell them not to touch this kind of thing at all. And if this committee, I assume as of tonight, is defunct, then is that correct?
No,
Yeah.
we're still a committee till August, end of August.
Till the end of August. Well, we're not going to be meeting or doing anything, I assume. I'm not going to waste my time anymore with this
Okay, that's
effort
fine.
if we're not going to do anything with it. Yeah.
Can I make a comment, Bill? And I appreciate all of your comments. And we are going to be meeting. And one of the reasons is maybe you missed it when you came in, but we had some citizens' comments. And I think in respect for the citizens of this city, that we committed to spend our full time trying to do whatever we can do. We're going to continue to meet, continue to comment, continue to take citizens' comments, and try to do anything we can to finish whatever work plan we have left and submit it to the council, and that's that. But I certainly understand your frustration, and if you don't feel the necessity to participate, I certainly understand and have no problem with it.
Yeah, well, I'll prayerfully consider that and then send a note to somebody about it. But do all of you agree with what Rick just said? I mean, are we all going to be pretending like we've got something to do here in the next month or so?
Well, I do think we have a mission to finish here, and the city accepted our work plan and said, go forward with it. And I think we should deliver that. So you and I, and if you don't care to participate, then, I'll do it myself, but I will deliver a best practices recommendation. So if you don't want to, like I say, participate, then you don't have to.
No, I would never leave you hanging, that's for sure. But,
Okay, I'm counting you as my wingman.
all right, well then we're okay.
Okay.
I think that there's got to be some way that we express a disappointment over this whole thing.
Yeah, no. You can continue to express disappointment. Adam, I'm still questioning about the elimination of our subcommittee. Now, like Rick said, one of the things mentioned at the city council meeting was the savings that this large reaping of savings that the city was going to see with the, I believe it was like $4,600 or something like that. We didn't spend that last year, right? So we already saved it.
No, but keep in mind, this was a two-part action. The first part was to disband the Coastal Advisory Committee and wrap that work up into the Beaches, Parks, and Recreation Commission. That committee, I think that those budgeted funds were mostly attributed to them. There was discussion about savings on staff time. For this meeting, there's two staff, myself and Janet Batchelor, that provide the staff support for it, along with IT staff. You know, the city would just naturally calculate that into any discussion that has any possible fiscal impact. But I think the majority of the savings, as far as budgeted funds that are not personnel related, would be related to the Coastal Advisory Committee.
Well, that just punctuates the whole thing here. I don't know about the beaches and parks and putting the golf committee in there, the coast. I don't know that much about what they do, but what you've just said kind of seems like we've just got thrown in with that. And you know what? And I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm just speaking for my own observations. Is this, again, it wasn't about the money that this was causing. It was about the fact that a staff person, and I think the head staff person, has been annoyed with this, the fact that we even exist, and this was just an excuse to get rid of it. And the fact that there really is no physical impact by this committee, and the fact that it should be so important that and they're alleviating is just, again, it's a punctuation. It's bizarre. Homelessness is, when they took all the polls before the last election, the citizen polls, what's your priority in town? What's the most important thing to you? The number one polled item by a large margin was homelessness, and the second was crime. And so you take this and just obliterate it, it's beyond comprehension. This is worse than putting sand in the skate park. This is laughable. It's a joke. And you know what? It's made us feel like jokes. It really has. Well, how can you come out and volunteer for something like this? And really, I think we've done some good work with what we have left on our work plan. And to take this and just to minimalize it, like Bill said, I mean, it makes it seem like it just was a total waste of time. And if this is the message that the city is sending, that our homeless emergency really doesn't mean anything, and you can say, yeah, we still have it. We're putting the public, the human affairs thing. We're going to have two homeless experts. I agree with Bill. Let's see what those two homeless experts look like. I think it's going to get diluted down to somebody who drove by and waved to Pam is going to be a homeless expert. Well,
Pamela.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Pamela. You're right. But I just. This is a circus.
Adam, I was going to remind everyone, for the record, that none of us are paid. Your staff members are paid. We've literally put in hundreds of hours. I know I have. I've put in hundreds and hundreds of hours researching things and finding out things. This is all stuff your staff is going to have to do. These are all things that staff would have to research, that you have 4 people here that were doing it for free. So I'm not an accountant. I don't do the accounting thing, whatever, but it seems to me free is less expensive than what you're paying your staff people. I don't know. I might be wrong. Maybe you don't pay them. I don't know. I'm not privy to that.
Listen, I was not involved in this decision. As I mentioned from the beginning, this was something that the council brought up at one of their meetings, and staff's report made a recommendation of a way that the council's ask could be done, which would be to eliminate the Joint Homeless Subcommittee and fold that work into the Human Affairs Committee. I enjoy working with the Joint Homeless Subcommittee. I think our time has been fruitful. We've got a work plan that still needs to be carried out. If the subcommittee would like to do that, I think that might be a good idea with the time that we have. The Human Affairs Committee is not going to have the homeless. It's not going to. They're not. The new appointed members of the Human Affairs Committee are not going to be seated until after August 31st. So the intention would be that they're not going to pick up this work beforehand, which means that if anybody's going to be continuing this work for the time being, it would be the Joint Homeless Subcommittee. And I completely understand everybody's frustrations.
I don't think so.
It was not a decision I was involved in. This was council led, and so I'm sure that these issues are going to be relayed to them, and they can decide what to do with it at that point. But the staff that is involved with this committee, that decision was above us. I'm here to help however I can, and just speaking for somebody that works on the homeless issue as a substantial portion of my time working in the city. I'm grateful for any help that I can get in doing this kind of research. So staff thanks you for what you've done, and I leave it up to the committee, to continue this work, and Janet and I are here if you need anything.
Hey, Adam, thank you for that. The one last thing is, and this all kind of brings around the whole point. You say you weren't contacted, you weren't asked opinion or anything. Is that true? Nobody came to you at all to ask you about this?
No, I was not part of this.
And there we have one of the big problems. I mean, I think all of us are insulted that, one, you weren't even asked about this, even, like, hey, how's this committee doing? Or what do you recommend? You weren't even asked about it. And then to not even come to the committee members and ask them, hey, we're thinking about maybe possibly eliminating your committee and rolling, this all into the human affairs. Nobody came and said anything. And I think all of us are insulted by that. I just wanted to state that. It's not a question or anything. I just want to let you know that that doesn't seem like a very solid way to run decisions. So
yeah, I'd like to second that. I found out about all this from a citizen that called me and said, "Hey, what's going on? You're ending your committee," and I had no idea. And it's because they had just read the Fresh City or the agenda for the meeting. And even if they don't want to ask our opinion, that's fine. It would have seemed like the city manager or a council member would have called Gary and said, "Hey, I just want to give you the heads up." But it's amazing. I mean, that's like coming into work after 20 years and finding a note or on your desk a box of all your stuff saying you don't need to come in tomorrow. It's just, again,
slap in the face. Slap in the face.
Yeah, it's a complete slap in the face. And maybe you can take that. I would suggest that you, Adam, being staff, take those recommendations back to your boss and say, gee, when we insult citizens like this so much, maybe we could soften it by maybe contacting them before so they don't, I mean, heck, I don't pay that much attention to the agendas. I might have found out about it the next day. It's just not good form. I'm sure it doesn't violate any government codes, not to let you know, but it's just bad form. It's not the way you treat people.
You know, I received this this information about this agenda item on an email sent by the city clerk's office, and I saw all of your email addresses on it. It was one before
No.
the item, and
No,
No,
I never got it.
no, it never came to me.
Never me either.
okay.
All right.
Gary, can I make one other comment?
Oh yeah, we're not finished. This is just with the elimination of it. We'll get. I have some more to say when we get to reports of committee members. So
Yeah, but Bill has a comment, I think.
yeah,
Bill
go
has a
ahead, Bill.
comment.
No, I just, the comment I wanted to make, there are two comments, I guess. On the Human Affairs Committee, I know I've been on that committee for about 12 years now, something like that. I won't be on it anymore, that's for sure. But because I have no interest at all in the way the city operates, I mean, but I would say to you that the Reverend Tyler Bowden and I were elected by that committee to be on this committee. We were selected and voted in to be on this committee. And I, for one, I feel like I've got some new friends here, and I really honestly appreciate that. So when I say waste of time, it certainly counteracts the fact that I've enjoyed Rick and Gary and Tyler and I are going to be working together like mad here in the next year, especially because I'm president of the Rotary Foundation, and Tyler's not going to get any money unless he's nice to me. So, but I would tell you that if that committee, the Human Affairs Committee, is going to search for two people who have a background in homelessness, well, you have to ask the question, why? What are they going to be doing? And they're not going to be appointed to this group because we're going to be long gone. So I don't know what kind of half-baked idea that was. So you can have some people with a background in a certain area, but you just don't ask people to join the committee for that reason and just not have anything for them to do.
Well, if I could real quick and maybe make an attempt to move things forward a little bit here. I first echo Bill's comment that it's really been a pleasure working with everybody here. And I fully intend to continue working on what we can work on in our work plan in the next couple of months. And, really, as we now know or have known for years now, it's not easy to get things done within government. And the homeless issue is very challenging and very complex and dynamic. And so we're experiencing that. And it's nobody's fault, really, but everyone's trying to address it in their own ways. But I think all we can do is what we can do with what's in front of us right now. And that's to complete our work plan. I've got a report today for our section. And I think that, Rick and I will continue to try to do what we can to add value, to sort of memorialize the information that we have gathered so far and pass it on to whomever it would benefit. And in the Human Affairs Committee, our work plan was actually written this time last year. So it's been a year, and it would be another work plan that the next Human Affairs Committee would be addressing. So I just would encourage them, whoever's going to be a part of that, to really just kind of start thinking now about what they want to accomplish that would be acceptable and agreeable to the council, and really to try to engage directly with the council as much as possible, as early as possible, so that they don't find themselves in a position like this where they're kind of spinning their wheels. But yeah, I think we have some reports to give in old business. So I suppose we can move on to that.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the unfinished business. That's the information gathering and presentations. So Tyler?
Yeah, so Rick, I could start off if that's all right. And so we, as our Rick and I's two work plan items were the sort of registry of information, which we found that for the most part has already been compiled and available to the public. So we really wanted to focus on the information gathering and presentation, and ultimately what we had originally intended was a stakeholders group of entities that get together at some frequency, but we found that wasn't the intention from the council. So instead we're just focusing on reporting on what these organizations are doing or have done over the past year, to whatever benefits. So we've carved out a couple for ourselves for this week, and we'll do it again in the coming months. So I've got FAM and OC links to report on, and we'll add this into the final report that we submit at the end. But so for FAM, I'll just read this off. It says, Family Assistance Ministries was established in 1999 with a focus on homelessness prevention for at-risk families and individuals. Its first clients were provided rental assistance and financial or job counseling, but over the past 20 plus years, their continuum of services has grown to include case management, housing, and food distribution. The COVID-19 pandemic brought a significant wave of demand for food and housing assistance, and FAM has increased its distribution locations to 15 as it receives and distributes over 100,000 pounds of food per month through various channels. FAM is also an access point in South Orange County for Family Solutions Collaborative, connecting families to housing options in Orange County. FAM administers a $13 million grant through the county for rental assistance in South Orange County, and it also continues to connect individuals to their families or relatives through the Homeward Bound program. This past year has also brought huge growth in the case management services that FAM provides, as it has added 10 case managers on staff, which have been successful in connecting 20 individuals to temporary housing through the Alternative Sleeping Program, aka Project Room Key, as well as 6 individuals to rapid rehousing over the past year. And then my next one is OC Links. I should note here that OC Links is actually not listed on our resource guide with the city. The 211 is listed there, but I believe those two numbers would kind of serve different purposes. OC Links being more in the behavioral health category. So I'll just read their blurb here. So OC Links behavioral health line is available 24/7 at 855-625-4657. OC Links provides information and linkage to any of the OC healthcare agencies' behavioral health services, including crisis services via telephone and chat. Callers can be potential participants, family members, friends, law enforcement, and other first responders, service providers, or anyone seeking behavioral health services and support. Trained navigators provide information, referral, and linkage directly to programs in the behavioral health continuum of care, from prevention through crisis identification and response. OC Links also has a crisis assessment team for those experiencing a psychiatric crisis, which can be reached at 866-830-6011. And that's all I've got.
Okay, on my portion, we hear about Laura's house a lot, bantered about, and I just wanted to give everybody kind of a background on what Laura's house actually is, and they're contacted through FAM if a domestic violence situation arises. And basically, the inception of Laura's house was inspired by a true story about a woman called Laura from Orange County who was a victim of domestic violence. Through comprehensive domestic violence programs and services at Laura's house, victims of domestic violence receive the time and tools necessary to live healthy, independent, and violent-free lives. They provide up to 45 days of emergency shelter for the victims and their families, and also provide legal assistance. So that's kind of what Laura's house is. I mean, I always knew they dealt with battered women, but I didn't realize exactly what their mission was. My other component was the OCSD Homeless Outreach Team, or HOT, and that's comprised, we have 2 full-time homeless outreach OCSD deputies in the city. Although due to COVID, they're pulled out of our city a lot and actually have to go up and deal with homeless up in Santa Ana near the courthouse. But we usually at least do have 1 5 days a week down here at any given time. And I found it interesting when I researched their website and the sheriff's website, and buried in there, they had a mission statement, or actually what they call their goals for their homeless outreach team. And I think it might be, I'm going to read this, and it's really, really concise and good. And I think maybe the city should come up with something like that for our homeless outreach employee, something that we could have a mission statement, maybe publish on the city website so people could go and see, kind of what the strategy is. And for the OCSD HOT team, It's the department's mission is to work collaboratively with other agencies and organizations to focus outreach and enforcement, you can take that part out, to assist the homeless population and provide them provide access to available resources and services while protecting the quality of life for all citizens of Orange County. And that's really a great mission statement for what the HOT team does. And like I say, maybe you could do something for our own homeless outreach person to kind of define what their objective is. That's all I got.
All right, great. Thank you, Rick.
If I could just say one thing in response to Subcommittee Member Leffler's comments. That's a great idea. We are in the process of going through the homeless resource page on the city's website and provide contact information, not only for Carly, but for we'll call it the current resources and services that exist to the extent that that information is available.
Right. Great. Thank you. I think it, oh, go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, thanks, Gary. I just had a question. It sounded like earlier in the meeting, I wasn't aware previously, but it sounds like we don't have any HLOs at the moment. And so there is it the PERT team that's being released, or Adam, I think you said behavioral health officers, or could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. The last I heard is that the HLOs that we had are we no longer have HLOs. We have deputies. Now we might have other specialized teams that come in and deal with particular issues, but the HLOs as we know them are that program is being ended and it's being replaced by the deputies that are part of the Behavioral Health Bureau of the Orange County Sheriff's Department. They're currently in the process of training, and I don't know if this is countywide or if it's a few jurisdictions at a time that go through this training, but it's rather intensive. And the deputy that will be, at least one of the deputies, I'm not sure how many we're going to have, but at least one is that's going to be working in that unit will be is in the process of training now. So once that training is done, then they will start to work more with our community outreach worker position.
Hey, Adam, bring that same point there. Doesn't the city contract with the Sheriff's Department to provide these two officers? And don't we pay, I think the figure is around $300,000 a piece per year?
That's a great question. I don't know.
You don't know what the number is?
I don't oversee the Orange County Sheriff's Department contract, so I'm aware of the staff that they have, and we work well together, and I make sure that we maintain great working relationships. But I don't go over all the numbers for all of their staff, and I'm not sure what the I'm not sure how that change affects the contract.
Well, this is just a rebranding. I mean, most of the HOT team people are going through the training, and to become, instead of an enforcement branch, more of a behavioral sciences, PERT, psychological emergency response kind of thing. And so I think we're going to see the same faces in just a rebranding, and probably the same deployment once they're trained.
That makes perfect sense. It sounds like it's a one-for-one. What I can do is I'll talk with Captain Manhart, and have him. I think we're only a couple of weeks away from a public safety committee meeting. I'll prime him to provide an update on all of that work and the status of those positions for that meeting.
Okay, and hey, could you ask staff how much we actually pay for those deputies?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So for anything else regarding that, anybody? Okay. So under best practices and overall homeless strategy, I can tell you that I am working on that, and I have sharpened my pencil considerably over the last week. So still working on it. So I'll be sure and have that before our last meeting in August. Reports of committee members and staff. I'll start. And what I'd like to, I'm sorry, Bill, I didn't, did you want to add anything about the best practices and overall homeless?
best practices would require some additional study. It would seem to me, I mean, I've written a large document about the plan that we put together in the Human Affairs Committee about 3 years ago. But that the best practices are identified in there that I would suggest. Maybe,
Oh, yeah. No, but
Madam, if you want to look at that.
no, I've incorporated it.
And
Trust me,
what
I'm going to get together with you and we're going to.
What I suggested was because of our meetings that we've had with FAM, I was going to arrange a time to go visit with the assistant city manager at Costa Mesa, who's got a huge background in homeless projects and can help us identify where best practices are that we could identify. But I think what's her face is way out in front of the collaborative is way out in front of us on this stuff now. They've been all over and done a good job, I think, of looking at that sort of thing because they haven't had to worry about the onesie twosie thing. So before I start getting hysterical again, I'll just stop at that point and say thank you for
Yeah. Well, Bill, thank you. And I will agree with you that the San Clemente Homeless Collaborative is doing a great job. And I think it's telling that just from like what Rick and Tyler reported, that these private agencies seem to be the real lead in providing homeless services. But I think this is a function that the citizens here would expect the city to be taking the lead in.
Yeah, it needs to be brought together, that's for sure.
Leading into that, I'll do the reports to the committee members. And like I said, I'll start. And I want to first go through our formation of our committee when it was first formed and the difficult parts as a committee when they put us together and said, okay, come up with a work plan with no real training on how to do this or how you would do this, what our problems are, who the people are. We're just kind of thrown in and like as if we had, reams of knowledge at our fingertips. We had to virtually go out and find out everything. I'm finding out today that we have a Mr. Pyle who is our point man here in San Clemente. But Adam, you never mentioned his name. You never really gave us an overview of what the park rangers or anything do. You never said that until just recently. I think it was at one of our recent public safety meetings is the first time I found out what the real role of the park rangers and code enforcement and everything are. But again, and this is just stuff that you find out as you go. And this is how the committee, I'm just letting the public know, this is how our committee was formed. And basically they threw us into the water and said, learn to swim. And you know what? We did pretty good. We formed good relationships within each other. And I found that all the Bill and Tyler and Rick were all passionate about doing something about this. And there was a real hope within from people that, wow, the city has put together this homeless committee and wow, they're really going to start addressing this thing. And we went out marching out with, proud and felt like, well, emboldened that we've been given, a job to do here and we're going to do it. In the San Clemente, I would go to the collaborative meetings and listen to them. And they were real excited about that. The city is going to be, taking a part of this. But like I say, you go through all these things. And then, so we try to cobble together things that we've never done before, these cumbersome work plans. And then the staff keeps taking them and reducing them down and saying, no, you got to do them this way. So they become these very vanilla flavored presentations that we have to give to the city council. And then again, there's no direction from anybody, the city council or the city manager's office or Adam for that matter, of what really they want us to do, what they want us to do. We never had a sit down meeting. I think it would have been good to have a sit down meeting with at least the city manager to say, look, here's the way we want you to do this. But that never happened. And so, and then one of the things that's cumbersome is the fact that we're told that we're under the Brown Act. Well, I looked up the Brown Act and committees aren't specifically labeled in there. Now, commissions are, but we're not a commission. We don't make laws. We have no voting power. And in fact, we don't even have a direct pipeline to anybody in the city unless it's on a private basis. So I think that the city sets up all these committees and puts them under the Brown Act just to handcuff them. I don't think that we actually are part of it. I actually sat on several state committees and we actually made laws. We actually created laws and sent them forward into California, and they are laws now. We never had to do any of this. So, but this is just my guess, is that the city sets these things up, and I'd like somebody to look into this. Are we actually required to be under the Brown Act if we're just a committee and we just make recommendations to the city? Maybe not. So moving forward, we finally cobbled together our work plan, we submitted it with great anticipation, and it got kicked back and said, no, you need to do this and do that. So we did, we reduced it down and sent it back in, but there's always like a month and a half before the city could meet. And some of that was because we didn't have enough city people in on the city council and stuff. So November comes around and they said, okay, they're finally going to look at your work plan. So finally, after 6 months, we're coming in to look at our work plan. And the first thing that happens is, without warning, nobody calls us, nobody talks to us, anything. We're going to table the work plan till February. That was exactly what happened at the city council. So you have to imagine, you know, the committee here, all of a sudden you keep getting the air let out of the tires, and, you know, you keep going to pump them back up. But, you know, you want to keep running, but it's kind of tough. So this goes on, and then suddenly we always seem to find out in the rears of everything. Oh, we're going to hire a homeless outreach coordinator. Oh, we are? You know, I mean, we find out stuff after it's already been told. Nobody asked us, there's no opinion. Apparently we're supposed to give recommendations, but if nobody asks us, how can we give recommendations? So then the next thing is, oh, we're going to fire CityNet. Oh, okay. Was that, and people were constantly asking me, hey, what happened? What's going on? I have no clue, because I said, they don't ever ask us. They don't ask our opinion. So, and then suddenly, you know, they're going to eliminate joint homeless subcommittee. Nobody asked. There's no, you know, no opinion about it is required on our end. It's just whatever is going on with staff decides. It's the staff on all this, from what I can tell, with the city is upside down. Just a little background. I have a degree, bachelor's degree from UCI in political science, and I have a master's in public administration from USC. This is not the way public policy was ever presented to me to be run. Staff doesn't set policy for the city. The city council, the elected members, are the ones who decide what the policy will be. Staff is the one who should get that going and make it work and decide how to make it work. And it doesn't seem like that's the case here. It seems like we're getting it coming the other way around. I think staff basically tells the city council, here's what our policy is. And that's what city council just kind of goes with it. The treatment of the committees is just abominable. I just presented how this committee ran. We tried to keep our heads up. We tried to keep, you know, the best face forward on everything. But frankly, it was tough. I was constantly having to talk to everybody on this committee and pump them back up and say, yeah, I know they eliminated the homeless, the shelters and stuff, but hey, once we get through this part, we'll be able to work this better. So I kept trying to keep everybody, you know, spirits up, but it was tough. Again, the way they treat the committees, and I heard this now from the other last week at the city council meeting from the coastal advisory, one of the ladies on the coastal advisory committee. She said, hey, it's very frustrating. We come up with things, and we run them. We have to run them through city staff, and then often they never make it to city council, or maybe only parts of it get through. And so there's this doorstop constantly of any information getting through city council. They set up these committees to request us to make recommendations, yet we have to run everything through staff. When I was calling different cities and such to get information about homeless, Adam gave me a call and Adam, you tell me if this isn't true, we had this conversation and you asked me not to call cities directly, but to call you so that you could call the city, so they could call you back, and then you could call me and answer the questions I had. But I had lots of questions. So that does not seem like the most efficient way to run an inquiry and have your staff, have people on committees running things. So I think there's just the way the committees are treated is just abominable. Like I said, there's just a complete failure to communicate. We never get direct communication to anybody other than Adam every now and then, you know, sending us something. But even that, it's not informative. There's this big black hole that all of a sudden things happen. Oh, we're hiring this person. We're firing these people. We're doing this. We're doing that. All things that are to our interest, but yet we never got any of that information. So yeah, I just am appalled by the city, and I hope somebody from the city council and I hope people in the public are hearing all this, and I hope they demand a change, because we're volunteers. We're volunteers here just because we want to make the city better. That's all we are, and that's all I have to say on that. Anybody else have anything to say?
I'll go. First of all, I want to say I agree completely with everything that Gary said. And you know, I think the city has made a mistake in asking for public safety experts to be involved in any of this. And you can see why. When Gary was fighting the fire, I was kicking a door. We had a plan and we implemented it, and that was that. We didn't have a work plan. We knew what we had to do. We had a task. And we did it. And that's not what these committees are about as far as the city is concerned. So now I've become to know it's all about optics. The city put in a homeless subcommittee because the citizens demanded it. And so they just shrugged their shoulders and said, okay, here it is. They did not want us to do anything, and that's why they castrated our work plan. So it's all about optics. And yet they want to get rid of us, but they still have to have something. So they're going to put it back in the Human Affairs Committee, and they're going to bring in 2 experts. Again, let's see how well that works out. I wish them the best of luck. Let's see what they really get. And even then, they're going to go ahead. Whatever their work plan is going to be broken down to nothing. And so, you know, what's the whole desire here? And so it's clearly just optics. And now, like Gary said, I've looked at other committees, and it appears that they're the same way. So it's funny, you know, I remember talking about this earlier. I know some other people that on other committees and commissions in other cities. They get a city ID badge. So when they go to City Hall, the people know, you know, who they are and that they have reason to be there. What do we get? Adam is still waiting for that polo shirt that says City of San Clemente on it. I mean, the city staff thinks these are a joke, and the city council is complicit in just letting it be a joke. You have all this expertise, all these people willing to do work in the city, and it just gets dismissed. And I'll tell you what I'm really concerned. I'll just say this out of and Tyler and Bill certainly listen, but Gary, you know, it's interesting. It's good that we made our public safety committee a standing committee, because if it was an ad hoc committee, Eric's son would have already gotten rid of it. But now he's going to have to really fight to do it. So it should be very amusing. But stand by, we're on the chopping block on that committee too, especially after today. So we'll see what happens. Oh, and by the way, Adam, I know you said you've enjoyed working with us. I know that was probably before today, but again, this is nothing on you. And when we meet again, all this is going to be done, and we're just going to be moving on. So I appreciate you sitting there and taking this. I feel badly for you. I really do. But something tells me you had an inkling that some of this might come up.
You know, I'm more than happy to respond. I don't know if anybody else would like to speak first.
I think Adam should be last. I think anybody else that has something to say should say it.
I think I've said my piece so far. Anyway.
Well, you guys have, I don't know what more I can really add, but I think that maybe the one thing I would say, it's just really, again, it's just a comment straight to the council if they watch this, which is to be more involved and take an interest in having your commissions and committees be filled with people that actually feel that they're doing or actually are doing work that's productive, rather than it being, like Rick says, just for optics, because that's not really good for anybody. And when I was in student government at San Diego State, we had a virtue that we called shared governance, and we really tried to implement that not only within our student government, but also having the students involved in decisions being made at the administration level. And it really works, when you involve people in the decision making process. But you just have to have an interest in doing so. So I think it's just a comment to the council to take an interest in involving your volunteers who are active and interested to do productive work with you. But you just have to take an interest if that's going to happen, rather than just waiting for it to get something to come to the dais or not come to the dais before making decisions. So I give that to the council. But again, going back to it, we've got 2 months left in our terms, and so hopefully we can try to make it as productive as we can. Rick and I have given a couple reports today, and we'll look forward to doing some more at the next meeting. And then just kind of to Adam, one of the blurbs that we want to put together is specifically related to just kind of city staff, including code compliance, park rangers, and maybe marine safety. So I probably want to get with you and chat about that so we can put together that blurb for the next meeting. But that's all I've got.
Oh, and lastly, I'll be at the city council meeting next Tuesday evening to speak, and some of these same issues will be coming up, and they're used to having me at the city council. It won't be a surprise that I'm there to them, but I'll be facing them and the city manager face to face. And Gary, I would invite you to come down there with me if you feel so compelled.
Yeah, I might do that. Last time I came down to speak, I got turned around. I had to go back home there.
No, it's all good now. We're already, they've got it figured out. It's all
okay,
good.
Good. Adam, your turn.
All right, if there's nothing from Vice Chair Ewing, well, I appreciate everybody's honest response to everything. Well, a lot of thought has clearly been put into the genesis of this change. In my review of this was really council led. As staff, and I'm just one staff, and I'm the staff that is charged with supporting this subcommittee and the public safety committee. My goal has always been to ensure that the work that these subcommittees and committees do is as efficient and effective as possible. I know that has been a sense that things have been held back. Those have been explained. If the explanation is not to your satisfaction, I apologize, but I work within a large organization, and there are many considerations when things move forward. The advice that I've provided from time to time generally stems around maintaining a focus on the work plan. I know that the work plan took a long time to get approved. I know that the council wanted certain things removed from it. That's beyond staff's authority to change any of that, and that's one of the ways that the council does set policy, and staff just simply implements it. When we had meetings and we discussed the work plan, I'm hyper focused on what the work plan actually says, because I'm always aware that the city council can change the makeup and composition of committees, if not their existence entirely, in the same vein that they can when they decide to create new committees and commissions. So staff is cognizant of that, and our goal is always to keep the committees as focused as possible. When it comes to things like advising you to contact me, to contact city staff in other cities. That's the nice way of me telling you that that staff has contacted our city and asked for that process to be put in place. You know, there are, working for a government is different than working for a private organization or a nonprofit. You know, there are definitely reasons why the San Clemente Homeless Collaborative can send all of its members to go look at anything at any given time, because they're not in charge of the public's resources or resources either in terms of money or resources in terms of issues addressed. So there is a special process to this, and I know that everybody's aware of it, but you know, my number one job is just to make sure that everything that the committee is doing is by the book, as I know it to be. The whole issue with the Brown Act, that was from the city clerk's office. That's not me. That is something that I confirm, you know, on in many ways throughout the year, because I don't want to open the city up for any potential litigation. That's an important aspect of the work that I do. And so with that, I understand the frustration. I appreciate your candid honesty about it. You know, I will do whatever I can to support this subcommittee and as well as the Public Safety Committee. So I'll leave my comments at that. There's a couple things that that we've discussed as far as the OCSDs, providing an update on some positions. I'll make sure that those are provided at the next Public Safety Committee meeting, the 4th Tuesday of this month at 3 p.m.
Okay, and with that, I think we've reached our adjournment.
Well, I guess I'll move that we adjourn this meeting to our next regular meeting, or I'm sorry, our next special meeting on Monday, July 19th at 1 p.m.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? All right, that passes. And Mr. Ewing,
Yes,
are you an aye on that?
yes.
Okay. So that passes.
July 19th at 3 p.m. Is that what you said? Okay.
1
One.
p.m.
Okay, gotcha.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for a great meeting.
Thank you.
You.